We back, we back, we back at it. I'm just gonna say the math ain't mathing for some of these things, but we gonna keep the math going. So as it stands, earlier I tried to do this and it didn't work. Internet wasn't working. StreamYard wasn't working. Phone wasn't working. Had to reboot, reschedule my phone. Lashes journey in the building. What's going on with your lashes? Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. I'm gonna look lashes and might even start making my own soap because like we be running through soap like crazy, and I'm like we try to stay with the Dove and stuff that don't really have all that extra stuff in it, but you never know unless you make your own. So I think that might be a good thing for us to start looking into as well. Um, just even with the washing powder, I was looking at a lady was saying how she do her own washing powder, how it's been, pretty good for her doing it. But there's just a lot of things that's been going on in society right now. And Bias LLC in the building, what's going on with you? It's just a lot of things that people need to talk about, but we don't talk about. But on this pod, I'm finna go ahead and get into it. We finna talk about the money. And when it comes down to it, it's literally crazy that people think money buys them happiness. And when you start doing the numbers, start locking it down, and money will get things for you that make you happy, but money doesn't buy happiness. So when it comes down to it, a lot of people have situations to where they're using money as an avenue for things to make them happy, but it doesn't buy them happiness. Money, prime example. Uh the episode I was just reviewing, the podcast I'm binge watching now and I'm just like really into is I want to I will teach you to be rich. That's the name of the podcast. I will teach you to be rich. And there's a guy by the name of Remith that, hosts a podcast. And just like I was talking about earlier this morning when people were there, Remith had a Netflix special where he was going around helping people live their rich life. And he ultimately, was teaching them about things. Now, this is the craziest. Now, he's always helping people with their finance, get out of debt, budget, maintain some of the things I talk about too. So, it's kind of a, push on it, but great content, far far better than mine, hat goes off to him about it. But, in the conversation and just looking at the podcast and doing a lot of, searching, I'm binge watching his videos and he's talking about money, talking about saving money, what are you doing with money, investing, all this stuff that I typically talk about too. But he had a caveat for this episode. The lady that actually hosts the hosts the podcast called Bigger Pockets. Now, for people who are really into the money game and you know learning about saving, the podcast called Bigger Pockets is like the podcast to get into. Bigger Pockets talks so much about, having money to invest, saving, rainy day, 401k, life insurance, everything that you think possible. And Mindy is the host. Believe it or not, Mindy was on the show. Let me make sure to keep the name. I will teach you to be rich. I will teach you to be rich. That's the name of his show, Ramit's show. And so Mindy was on there. Her podcast is called Bigger Podcast. And I'm sorry, Bigger Pockets. Bigger Pockets, the podcast. And Oh, Money Man Gerald, what's going on with you, man? I ain't seen you in a minute. Hey, shout out to you up there in Canada, man. Shout out to you in Canada, man. Shout out. Yeah, and so she's always, breaking down the bigger pockets and talking about people who's saving money, who's making money, who's investing, who's actually doing what they can do to, be out of debt and be frugal and do all kind of things to make money. And so when it come down to it, you know, Mindy, she's in a situation to where she's teaching people how to get out of debt, do all these things. But the thing with Mindy though that a lot of people don't understand, Mindy is a point to where, yeah, Bigger Pockets is a great show, you know. And the thing about it, Shay Love, what's going on with you? And so with Bigger Pockets, she's the host on Bigger Pockets, and she has a co-host. Now the crazy thing is, this is not a situation to where Mindy's coming on for help from me, the host of the show. I want to teach you to be rich, to try to get rich, because she's on Bigger Pockets. She should know a thing or two about money. Her problem coming on Ramif's show, I will teach you to be rich, is because she needs to spend money. She literally has so much money in savings, so much money to the point where she has to spend money. Like they literally did so many things on the show that was weird and crazy to me. Like, prime example, they had a situation to where they one of their daughters went to Germany. They were complaining about spending $6,000 on the plane tickets for him, his wife, and the daughter to go to Germany. That's about $2,000 a piece. Quite sure the daughter, you know, the other daughter as well. So they probably got a deal because it was four of them going to Germany, and they were complaining about it. But they're multimillionaires. And the crazy part is, let me show you how cheap the situation has gotten. They were flying from Denver to Florida. They saved $20 by catching two connecting flights. And I'm like, hold on. So you're probably going to spend another 3 to 8 hours in the airport when you could have been at a hotel just to save literally $20. And I was like, man, this is literally crazy. And to like see that, and I mean, just have an understanding of like, man, what is really going on? What is really saving $20 by spending another 6 hours in the airport? When you're a millionaire, you got the money, and just it's just the craziness. They had to spend money. They was on record right now to, but they're in their 50s, and by the time they retire, they're gonna retire. I think they have what is it? The wife said she has what is it, $2.8 million as of now with both of them. They have a couple of investment properties and things they're not counting. Of course, 401k and all that, index and all these things. But when it comes down to it, they still live frugal. They always look for the deal and the discount. They literally went to breakfast, and four of them spent $98 plus a tip included. Without the tip, 20% tip. So probably around 70 something bucks, close to 80. But with the tip, it was $98, and they were having a fit. And I'm like, dude, I spend almost $98 majority of the time when me and my wife go out, and you're complaining about that. I'm not as I don't have as much money as you, but like shout out to Big Rooster. Big Rooster was on Miss T's channel one time, and I was telling him how we have crab boils all the time, and we have lobster in the crab boil, crab legs, shrimp, sausage, potatoes, all these things. And he was like, "Man, you kind of living high on the hog, man." I said, "Well, what am I working for? I like to eat good. I go to a nice restaurant. If it's expensive, I go there at least one time to get the experience. I just couldn't see myself going to Roof Chris, but I might end up consider doing it. But other than that, like spending money on food, that's a necessity. That's things that people need, you know. And the thing about it is, this guy thought when he hit his target market of making so much money, making over $1 million some dollars, that he was going to be happy. That wasn't the case. Hey, I'll take you to lunch. I don't have a problem with that, man. Hey, I paid for lunch for people. It's not a problem. I'm already gonna budget in that you're gonna spend at least 50, $60, you know, because that's my budget for me. If I'm gonna go somewhere spending, I want to eat good. Get a steak? Yeah, I eat a steak. You want a steak? Yeah, you can eat a steak. It's not a big deal because you gotta understand when you have people, friends and family members, you want them to enjoy themselves. And that was the situation with him. He had a family member that was coming, and when I say coming 2 hours, the family member was coming 2 hours from where they were in Pennsylvania, and they were coming down to see them. And these are some good friends they know. He asked a friend, "Do you know a good restaurant out over this way? Where you guys are coming?" He said, "Oh yeah, I went there one time with a couple of friends." Told him, "Okay, cool." Soon as he got off the phone, he looked up the restaurant and was complaining about the prices. You know, and a lot of men, we laugh about this because you hear the whole Cheesecake Factory thing and all this. When it comes to a lot of the women in that whole situation, the problem be solved if, hey, you come down here, I'll take you guys out to eat, I'll pick the restaurant. You can't complain about a restaurant that you pick because you know the price of that restaurant. You know, if you don't know, you Google it. What's going on, Sweet Thumb? And that's the point. Like this guy literally invited some family members and friends out to come and eat. And when he seen the price of the restaurant, the plates, he was kind of upset. Like, man, this is like literally too much money to go on, hang out with the people, with his friends. Stuff. What's going on, Prince Pierre in the building? What's going on with you? And so he was having an issue with, I'm gonna be paying too much money. He didn't, get to the point of how much he paid because the guy on the channel, Ramif, kind of stopped him in his tracks about it. Yeah, hey, like I said, man, when I go out to eat, I like going out to eat and eating good. I'm not finna sit here and just go out to eat, budget myself, and if I ain't got that much money, I feel as though I shouldn't even really be going out myself in the first place. So I save it to when I go out to eat. But like I say, if I go out to eat with family members and friends and I say I'm footing the bill, of course. Hey, you know, there was a situation I seen where this guy he went out with one of his friends. He didn't know none of the people. He only knew the one lady he was with. And these people were ordering stuff like crazy. So he said his meal came up to 100 something with some drinks. So when he went to the bathroom, he just deemed himself to go ahead and pay while he was going to the bathroom. Now, this restaurant said before they sat down, you'll have a two-check minimum, literally two-check minimum. So this guy ended up saying, "Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and pay for mine now and everything, and I'm gonna go ahead and let it be done." So he paid for his food, about $110. He gave the waitress a $40 tip. The waitress said, "Oh, thank you." So he used the bathroom, come back, sit at the table. Now, when it's time for them to pay for the check, everybody's sitting there, nobody's touching the check. So one guy picks up the check, sees the check. I think it was, I want to say 25 or $3,500, and it was a party of 12. He said they were ordering like food like it was crazy. People had to go plates. They had like truffle butter, all this different stuff, and trying the big shrimp, trying all kinds of things. And it was crazy how shout out to everybody in the chat. Y'all have each other. Everybody has a rent, so you go check out each other's channel, sub to each other's channel. Maybe you might like the content over there, and stop on by, and tell them what's going on, say thank you. But hey, Jerry, I'm gonna need you to be more represented on the online side. I'm gonna have to go and see if you drop any stuff, and if not, yeah, I know you mostly be in the clouds, but I give you that pass. But like I said, overall, this guy was so cheap about spending money for his friends and family members that he was taking the drive 2 hours up. Now, like I said, a lot of people might don't understand what I'm talking about, but the links are in the description to where you can go back and watch these videos later. What's going on, DJ Run? And the first one is I Will Teach You to Be Rich is a TV show Ramith I seen on I seen on Netflix. And so I started following the guy on YouTube, and I was like, oh man, this guy's channel is great. He always talks about finance. These are the things that I want to do with my life and get my finances better. So why not just bring it to everybody so they can go check out his channel? And hey, he has different worksheets that you can use. He has all type of things to help you work throughout, check your finances, see can you afford things, see. And a lot of times people always say save, save, save. No, don't spend, save. Like FOMO of missing out to the point where I don't want to buy anything because I don't want to be broke. He had people on his channel before that kept saying, I have a scarcity mindset to where one day I wake up, I'm going to be homeless because I got so much debt and credit cards and things of that nature. Now, this man and woman, they literally had the money, but it just, they didn't want to spend the money. And so Ramith, he gave them, an example when he was out of college. He just graduated. He literally said, I went to um, a place where this lady he knows, and he said she had a good sense of style. K Diggs, what's going on? Had a good sense of style and was like, I want you to, yep, yeah, Ramith. Okay, so you know about the series. Oh, you got his book. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. And so basically, with he had the lady dress him down. And the first thing he did was as simply as everybody else do. Grab the tag and look and see how much it costs. But his friends say don't do that. Because if something looks nice, you worry about the price later. You just see how the feel you get from this stuff. And then you worry about the price you buy. And so upon his letting her style him, he bought everything without looking at the price. Got to the register. It was a pretty healthy bill, but he said he liked the clothes. And so I talk to my wife about that all the time. If we buy things, we're not buying it as a shameless guilt. What's going on? Four corners in the building. What's going on? Four corners custom in the building. What's going on with you, man? And so when it comes down to it, buying things is not a guilt to buy things. Like I said, everybody got wrench. Hey, KDs, I got to get you a wrench over here. All right, so we good. We good. Everybody got wrenches. Miss V in the building. Make this go viral. You got the crime podcast over here now. You got the crime podcast moving around on us. But like I said, when it come down to it, a lot of people just don't want to spend money and they get a scarcity mindset. That's why I say his whole thing is spend money with intent. I tell my wife that all the time. If you're gonna spend the money, spend it and make it worth it. Don't spend the money and regret the purchase later. You know, to a degree, when I buy things, I don't look at just how much it costs. I buy things with the intent I need it. This is something that's on sale. This is good for me, and I'll use this tool later. I mostly buy tools and other stuff like that, but this is something that I need. So I'm going to have an intent to buy this and use this at a later time. And most of the time, it actually works. Like I said, we go on trips. My wife's brother had a birthday party. We went out for my wife's brother birthday party. Samantha, what's going on? My wife's brother had a birthday party. When we went out, I was like, mm, all of us, we did the hibachi. You know, stay hard was going on with you in the building. When we went out to eat, the craziest thing, yeah, about the US dollar now. The craziest thing when we went out to eat, we just got there, picked a side, had the bill, and set it up. All my kids, besides my oldest, he paid for himself, but I paid for us. I already knew. Hey, I already knew it was gonna be over 100 something. Plus the hibachi had to pay for the gratuity 18%. I knew that was gonna be a factor in there. But normally when I do the hibachi and they grill in front of us, I give extra money. So I go get cash and I gave the guy a tip as well. And everybody else, they do the usual complain. Well, they put the gratuity in there for 18%, and I'm not gonna give a tip on top of the gratuity that they already put. First of all, I was in a situation where I used to move furniture. I made good money, and to a degree, a lot of people will give us tips. Now, if you tip the company, majority of the time, just like in restaurants, when you tip the restaurant would take the tips and they would split it amongst everybody. Whether you have a good waitress, bad waitress, the waitress that don't care about you, anything, that money goes to everybody. But when you give that waitress their tip, they will have that cash for themselves. So I prefer giving the waitress a tip because they did a good job. I prefer giving any of the waitress that deal with me money. I don't care if they have an 18% gratuity in there or whatever percent gratuity. If you actually did a good job, especially with when you start doing those chefing up, my wife, we went to hibachi for her birthday as well, and her mother, father, my father-in-law came, all that same thing happened. I gave him a tip, and everybody was like, "No, no, don't give him a tip. He gets this and he gets that." Hey, you handle your check the way you handle your check. I handle my check the way I handle my check. And I always like giving tips because, like I said, when I was at the moving company, a lot of people, you already paid a lot of money for me to move you. So why do you have to tip me? Or your company paid a lot and it's all included. You shouldn't tip anything. They still tip. And so that's what gave me a better mindset of tipping. So when I started tipping, restaurants, I would always, if I know if they have a tip of gratuity already on there and you had a great service, you gave me great service, I would tip you extra. That's just the thing. Most people, they're not tipping like that. And like I said, the more rich people are, the more frugal they are. And I've seen it in cases where managers I've dealt with, companies I've dealt with, and just in this case, like I said, with this podcast, I will teach you to be rich. On that podcast, Mindy, she hosts bigger pockets, and bigger pockets podcast for everybody. Like I said, that that knows about money and stuff like that. Bigger pockets is like a real nice podcast that talks about investing in real estate. They talk about dealing with your 401k, upping your finance, getting out of debt. You know, in a point of making more money is the key. They had a lady on there. She was came from Africa. She was house hacking in college, turned around, graduated, started working for the start working in Georgia at the CDC in Atlanta. She left Chicago when she graduated college, started working at the CDC in Georgia. She started house hacking down here and house hacking in Chicago. And I think to this day she has over 100 doors. Wellness with Frugal Mama in the building. How's it going? And when it comes down to it, she got the point of finance. She got on Bigger Pockets, told her story. People loved it. Mindy herself, like I said, she's in the real estate, have a lot of these things, have millions of dollars, but everything has to be a gimmick to where she's getting a deal. You know, the plane tickets cost her $6,000 for four of them, and they were feeling bad because they couldn't get a deal because it was last minute. If they would have planned for it, they would have saved a little money. Lisa J in the building, what's going on with you? And like I said, they literally took a connecting flight and only saved $20. They took two connecting flights, which made their flight probably last anywhere from 3 to 6 hours longer in the airport because they saved $20. If I'm a multimillionaire, what's it for me to save $20? What's going on, Bruce in the building? Christina, what's going on with you? And like I said, when it comes down to it, their problem was not being in debt. Their problem was they literally had too much money and didn't want to spend it, fear of losing out to where one day we might hit rock bottom. One day we might don't have this. One day we might don't have that. So when it comes down to it, that fear of missing out, which made them not spend money, always be frugal. I'm talking about they have little investment properties and everything. And it got to a point to where, hey, we got so much money, we have a problem with spending. Their kids say, Mom, Dad, we're rich. Why do you guys pinch so much like this? They have a 16 and a 13-year-old. The 16 and the 13-year-old are trying to figure out, like, why we can't do things. So the husband, he runs out and says, well, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do something wild and crazy. He actually spent $10,000 on one of his favorite bands to do a private show for him and everything, which end up return there, you know, he would in a million years would never do. Cool gamer in the building, what's going on with you? And he spent some money. Like I said, for those that just coming in, the things that I'm talking about, the links are in the description of the video. You can go back and look at. Um, you got one video is I want to teach you to be rich, and that is a financial show on YouTube that talks about making money. And once again, it says it in the name. I will teach you to be rich. That's the name of the podcast. I will teach you to be rich. All right. Second of all, you got another podcast. Well, I'm gonna talk about this one too. Black excellence. So the reason I sit there and post the black excellence, yeah, they're afraid to be without, and that's the key. They're multimillionaires. Their plan, if they live to be 78, they're gonna have almost 32 to 60 some $1 million. Now you literally have all this money, but yet you're still to the point. And the guy was saying when he gets that old, have that much money, then he will start looking at giving it out. You might end up dying leaving all that money to your kids because you pinch so hard to where their neighbors even get on them about cutting their own grass. You in a half a million to $1 million neighborhood. Mostly everybody over there, they get lawn care guys come and cut their grass. I'm not a rich man, but I have a friend that cuts grass. I pay him to cut my grass. I'm barely rich, but there's the point. I'm trading my money for time. I think it is necessary for me to pay someone that I know that does a good job and for me to spend more time working, making more money and providing and doing other things for my family. So that's why I took the initiative of paying someone to cut my grass versus me cutting my grass. I can cut my grass all day, don't have a problem with it. But yet you have this guy who's a multimillionaire think that it's just far too wasteful to pay someone to cut the grass, they'll do it themselves. Needless to say. Now, let's get into the second video. My posted. I think that one was the Black Excellence. and the last one was the curse of the lottery. So the Black Excellent video talks about people who actually won the lottery. And in these videos, it shows people winning the lottery, what they're doing with their lottery winnings, how they're treating things, how they're providing for their community, and so forth. Like I said, this is the podcast, Black Excellence, and it focuses more in on, black people. But at the same time, I thought this would be a good YouTube channel to broadcast and show to people, like, look at people who are winning the money and what they're doing. So this point, money can't buy you happiness. Money gives you a sense of relief. When you hit the lottery, you're able to do things with your winnings. I've seen on there where people were paying off all their family debt. I've seen where people started companies, started nonprofit organizations, you know, building and doing things in the community, doing good with their money versus spending it wildly, buying Ferraris and being broke within a year or two. Those are the things that actually happen when people have money. For the people that come to my channel a lot, you understand, and I always speak on this. When it comes down to it, if you don't teach your kids as well as the adults who are older, if they haven't been around money, don't know about money, they'll lose money. And when I say lose money, I'm talking about you having all this money and you pretty much lose it due to the fact you don't know how money works. And a lot of times it comes to a point where people have so much money, they literally don't know what to do with it. So, versus them trying to take the money and doing something productive, they'll take the money and just buy crazy things. Oh, man, I always wanted a Ferrari. Go buy a Ferrari. Oh, man, I always wanted to go on a trip to London. Budgeting for that trip is one thing, but if you have the money, just spend it. Don't care, you know. But to a degree, hey, long term, are you going to be able to keep this money? And that's where most people, kind of get things messed up. Long term, they don't budget. They always spending money, don't have nothing coming in. Ultimately, you meet your fate. And that's why I say I try to encourage my kids. Hey, learn about money. Come over here. Let me teach you this. My kids just went on a field trip at their school, teaching them about adult decisions, about checking, about entrepreneurship. What's going on, boss lady? And I told my wife this was a good experience for them, because they learn little small things at home, but it's good that the school is actually teaching them. Both of them took a business course this one took one semester, the other one took one this semester, and they're learning about entrepreneurship, you know. And to a degree, that's something that all kids should be into, learning more about. And like I said, with the situation with the lottery, people who won the lottery, it was so good to see a lot of the people that won the lottery actually turn around and seek counsel from wise people. That means a financial advisor, someone who has money, and what was the best form of action to keep the money and not just spend it all and go broke. So I like it that in that situation, the lot of people that they dealt with on this show, I mean on this channel, they talked about people who had this money. And like I say, for the people that just coming in, I'm talking about the videos in the description of this video. The first one was I will teach you to be rich with me. The second video is Black Excellence, where it talks about the people who won the lottery. And now getting into the last one, uh, I pretty much call it the curse of the lottery. People who hit the lottery and pretty much um, got the short end of the stick, you know. And people that always say, well, hey, when you get the money, don't get the big head. Don't forget about the little people. Stay down for your neighborhood, stay loyal. But it's to a degree, money always brings problems. And in these videos right here on this last link, it talks about a lot of people who hit the lottery and tragedy came to them simply for just hitting the lottery, whether being robbed, whether being killed. It's to the point where you get the money, you know what to do with it, but also when you're in a situation where you have a lot of money, it's not kind of, good to, announce your winnings and talk so much about it to people to the point where, people will want to take your life. And I just briefly over a couple of videos, they had this one that was in Georgia where a guy was in South Georgia. He ended up hitting the lottery and talking with some family members and friends and helping them out. Some guys came from Atlanta. I guess some family members down there knew of him and say that, man, this guy hit the lottery down here. Let's rob him. Rob the guy. And the guy kept expressing, I give you anything you want, just don't do it in front of my kids. He literally knew he was going to meet his fate. And he literally told the guy, hey, man, whatever you do, just don't do it in front of my kids. So lo and behold, the guy ended up taking his life, shot him 5 times, took his keys, took his phones and all that stuff. His girl was still in the house with the kids, and she grabbed the 2 kids, ran out the house when the guys left, and went running down to the next door neighbor house, or whoever that was in the neighborhood. I guess neighbors in the neighborhood ran to them, knocked on the door, told them the situation that happened, and so they was like, okay, and end up to a degree, having that situation. Now I was in South Georgia. I'm quite sure it was one in Atlanta too, but this was one in South Georgia. Well, probably on the outskirts. It wasn't in Atlanta, but some guys knew, and they actually killed the guy and pretty much tried to get to a point where they was trying to take take the money from him. Which, I mean, in this day and time, nobody literally carries a lot of money on them. So that's one thing. Two, even if they went to the bank, they was gonna cut the card out. It was something to a degree where they were just going to get some money, didn't really have a level head. He gave them the pin number. They still shot him. And when they couldn't start his car, they got mad, came back in and shot him in the head and killed him. Yeah, yeah, he was. And there was some people that pretty much, I guess, knew of him that did it. And I think a lot of them were sentenced last year. I think 3 still awaiting trial on this case. And it was just crazy to a degree, man. Like, why do you get to these points to where when you make this type of money, you got to get out of your environment? Get security cameras. I mean, the people he trusted, that's how this situation happened. You know, not saying that, hey, you got to leave everybody around you, but you got to be aware of your surroundings. When you make this type of money, you're going to have these type of problems, especially with hitting the lottery. Now, situations where people just saving their money, budgeting right, not being in debt, living frugally, not spending a lot of money on the house and everything else, you tend to, fly up under the radar. Because I've met a lot of people that had so much money, and you would never think, you know, everybody from a lot of black guys, white guys, they have so much money you would never think by the way that they wear their clothes, the car that they drive, because they don't put a lot of their money in the materialistic things. They actually take their money and invest it in assets, passive income, to where they have 5 or 6 rental properties that's getting them money, and they don't have to go to work, you know, because these rental properties are bringing in extra money for them to compensate for their bills and stuff. Yeah. I've been doing some pretty good on the coins. I've actually just cleared a good little bit on my wallet when the stuff went down, and I'm actually about to start buying now because I see it going back up. So I've been researching a little bit into that. I'm actually Jared about to get into the stock options. I've been talking to some people, so I've been learning more about stock options. I would, relatively think I needed more time to watch the market and stuff. And they was briefly telling me, hey man, you don't even need that way. You just gotta have a situation to where the numbers speak for itself. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and handle that situation like that. About to go ahead and get into that because me getting a van, yeah, yeah, yeah. I seen it. I've been looking at a lot dealing with stock and this rental property. That's what I want to get to. I want to get into a point of getting a rental. So that's gonna be my next option to the point too, to where I'm actually gonna be renting the house out and getting another house, a bigger house, and might end up having that house for a minute and then living more or less towards the country. Like that house is gonna be farther from the city. The next house after that might be farther, and then that's when I'm gonna start getting into the duplex game. I already have two properties I'm invested in with people, and this is just some side project I did. I'm not even fully invested in it. I get a partial payment on it because I did some of the work. So I traded my my skills for pay. So the things that I did for, this guy contracting him on a couple of jobs, which is my friend, and versus him paying a contractor, he paid me to do the work, and far as the work that I got paid to do, I just told him take that money and invest it back into the property and make me like a partner. I don't I'm not looking to get 50%, but just a portion. And I keep moving up. This is my second property that I did with him, and I'm gonna actually do one on my own, and then that's when we're both gonna go into the duplex or quads. And we're just looking at the rate of the market to go down a little bit before we get in the quads because they move so quick. Anytime you see one on the market, they're gone, and literally the good ones are gone within a month. Once you see them, you contact your agent. You get a point of going to see the listing. Once you see the listing, before you can put an offer in, after you see the listing, majority of the time, if you see the listing on a Wednesday, it's on the contract already that Wednesday, or pretty much by the next day when you ready to put your offer in, it's already on the contract. So, a lot of times you gotta be hasty, you gotta be ready to go right then and there. So, like I said, these are the things that a lot of people just looking at right now. I'm like, it's okay for me to spend a little money here because I enjoy it. Anything that I enjoy and I like, I'm gonna spend my money. Eating is one of them. I don't like to spend $1,200 a month on my grocery bill, but at the same time, I like eating pretty good. If I like eating a steak, seafood, you know, my wife at one point, she didn't want to eat any meat. So she was big on eating salmon, no shrimp, just salmon, whiting, and that's what she wanted to eat. That was the type of diet she wanted, pescatarian diet. So hey, we went at that. You know, I still stuck to my meat and every now and then, even when I went vegan for a minute, where just I was eating nothing but meat. I mean, nothing but vegetables. That was the thing I wanted to do at that time. I spent way more money on fresh food, fresh vegetables and fruit, because that's what I wanted to do. Like I said, what's the point of having all this money and working so hard and not being able to do what you want to do with your money and enjoy your money? That's one of the big things. Like I say, I, I pretty much got to a point before I even looked at any of these channels. I seen one guy was always talking about paying yourself first. So I look at that as a number one thing. And once I pay myself first, that's how I'm able to enjoy and do things I want to do. So with that being said, shout out to everybody that came in the building. Like I said, come back, listen to the replay and go ahead and look at some of those videos in the description, like I said. And sign up to the channel, man. I will teach you to be rich. It gives you a mindset, man, to get you out of this poverty mindset, and it also gets you a mindset of saving and living for tomorrow, because a lot of people literally don't really live for tomorrow. So what happens? And with that being said, shout out once again. You know what I always say when I jump off of here? We here and we gone. Peace.